This is Mac OS Ken.
Apple has cut some jobs, a fight over streaming music prices, and Wednesday is this week's Friday. It is Tuesday, the 25th of November, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. It is never good news when a company cuts jobs, especially for those people whose jobs have been cut. It can also be a sign of trouble for the company cutting the jobs, though there is practically zero chance that that's the case with the Apple job cuts reported on Monday. A piece from Bloomberg says the Cupertino company has eliminated dozens of sales roles in a bid to streamline the way it offers products to businesses, schools, and governments. Those cuts are said to have come over the past couple of weeks, according to the report. Quoting Bloomberg, the affected jobs included account managers serving major businesses, schools, and government agencies, as well as the staff who operate Apple's briefing centers for institutional meetings and product demonstrations for prospective major customers. Internally, the report says Apple is positioning the layoffs as an attempt to streamline its sales process and address overlap. That said, people affected put the move down to Apple wanting third-party resellers to handle the sales in question. The news comes compliments of the usual secret people. While Apple didn't go into details on the layoffs, it did confirm the shuffling. Bloomberg had an Apple spokesperson saying in a statement, "To connect with even more customers, we are making some changes in our sales team that affect a small number of roles. We are continuing to hire, and those employees can apply for new roles." That kind of stinks. I mean, I get reorganizing, but Apple just came off one of its best quarters ever, heading into an even better quarter, according to Apple itself. Wouldn't it be cool to retrain and place the displaced people? Anyway, Bloomberg says the unjobbed have until the 20th of January to secure another position within the company, or they'll be terminated with a severance package. So, happy holidays. Here's a story that sounds very 10 years ago. Apple is worried about a gray market for iPhones. No, not to or from China. Rather, the concern is iPhone 17 models finding passages out of India. The website for India's Business Standard says the Cupertino company is warning mobile phone retailers there that they will face a big fine if any iPhone is activated with a foreign SIM within 90 days of sale. Of particular concern is any model of iPhone 17, according to the report. How big a deal is this? Well, big enough to cause an iPhone shortage in India, according to the piece. Business Standard has the site Money Control indicating that iPhone 17 models are disappearing quickly from Indian stores because retailers are sending large quantities to overseas markets where profit margins are higher. They're going out the back door to the Middle East, Africa, and Russia, according to the report. Quoting the piece again, experts estimate that 3 to 5% of total Indian iPhone exports come from unofficial channels, and nearly half of these go to Russia, where Apple stopped operation after Russia invaded Ukraine. The English version of the French papier Le Monde has Apple facing a class action lawsuit over music streaming prices in France. According to the report, the consumer advocacy group CLCV argues that Apple's App Store fees have driven up the price of subscriptions to music streaming services. The argument is a combination of similar arguments we've heard in the past. They include that services cost more when purchased through Apple than when purchased directly, thanks to the App Store commission, and that Apple prevented streaming services from informing consumers that they could pay less by buying direct. so they would like consumers to get their money back. For its part, Apple calls bull wash. Le Monde quoted a company spokesperson as saying, "This lawsuit is unfounded. The European digital music market is thriving and competitive, and consumers have more choices than ever when it comes to streaming music services." Additionally, while Spotify stopped letting users subscribe through the App Store in 2018, Apple spokesperson pointed out that Spotify has raised its prices anyway, despite avoiding Apple's commission. In response, says Le Monde, CLCV argues that Spotify subscribers paid commissions until 2018 and have suffered a moral harm since. CLCV filed its case on the 7th of November. No word in the piece on next steps. Speaking of Spotify and price increases, guess what's happening here in the States? A piece from the Financial Times says Spotify is preparing to raise U.S. subscription prices in the first quarter of next year, according to 3 secret people said to know stuff about stuff. The piece says the major record labels have been pressing Spotify, Apple Music, and other music streaming platforms to increase their fees, arguing prices have lagged inflation and subscriptions remain cheap compared to video services such as Netflix. Spotify declined to comment for the Financial Times report. From the people who brought you streaming blackouts, cable news network, you can call them CNN, is off of Apple News, though probably for a limited time only. A piece from Semafor says CNN quietly removed its stories from Apple News over the weekend. Not a huge dust-up, apparently. The cable outlet's content-sharing contract simply came to an end after 10 years on Apple News. That said, Semafor does see CNN pulling its content as playing hardball with the Cupertino company. While Apple's news offerings have become increasingly important distribution and monetization channels for publishers, Semafor says CNN's hardball tactics with Apple reflect the company's increasing push for digital monetization and more aggressive posture towards sharing its content with tech platforms. CNN rolled out a new paid subscription offering earlier this month and has been putting more of its reported stories behind a paywall. Apple and CNN are said to be discussing a new deal that would restore CNN's stories to Apple News. Neither company offered comment for the Semafor piece. And finally today, this holiday weekend stands to be a busy weekend, and Apple wants to make sure it does not mess with your TV viewing. Hipping us to the company's concern, a piece from 9 to 5 Mac says Apple TV is releasing its Friday shows early this week. According to the piece, both the 9th episode of The Last Frontier and the 5th episode of Pluribus will hit on Wednesday rather than their usual Friday. Of course, that actually means Tuesday night rather than Thursday night here in the States, since Apple drops shows the night before their stated release date. I kind of forgot The Last Frontier was a thing, to be honest. Pluribus, though, that one is a topic of conversation throughout the week around these parts. Anyway, this week's Apple TV comes early. They just want you to be happy, Carol. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Leonard likes this post.